Welcome to Bleav in Everything Auburn. I'm not starting out with the ad because we got to address what the heck is going on with my co host right now. Jason Campbell, Taylor Davis, War Eagle, everybody. Welcome to Bleav in Everything Auburn. Jason and I were talking about this upcoming matchup. I might have sounded a little pessimistic, and Jason put on this hat over his headphones and declared that he's blocking out the negativity. He's only listening to his own thoughts about the weekend. So I feel like this is a good attitude for us to have, Jay.
Yeah, it's a great attitude. See, me blocking out all the noise prevents me from getting gray hair. Everybody trying to figure out what's going on, or we have a chance to beat LSU. I was the main one telling everybody that we had every opportunity to beat Georgia, and
Yeah,
people was just like,
you
"Oh,
did.
I just want us to be competitive." I said, "Where's the belief?" I was just like, "No, I believe we can beat Georgia," and I laid out the reasons why I thought we could beat Georgia
Mm-hmm.
and everything. But I'm just keeping all my noise between my ears with my headphones on for this episode. I got my little hat on that says Run Auburn.
Yeah,
I'm just blocking out anything from somebody's trying to just throw shade over here right now.
none of it.
I'm just not having it.
Well, yes, I give credit where credit is due. And back in the summer, when we were doing a far too early season prediction, you said Auburn was going to upset Georgia. Unfortunately, it didn't officially come to fruition, but boy, were we right there. So we're going to get into it. Just had to address this choice of my co-host right now. But you
Yeah.
know what's up. Bleav in Everything Auburn, as always, presented by Bet Online. Football is back, and Bet Online is your number one information source for all your sports wagering info with all the up to the minute stats, news, scores, and matchup breakdowns. You can get the latest game odds, spreads, and totals from the NFL and college football at your fingertips with Bet Online's real time updates on statistics, news, and odds. From week one all the way to the college football playoff and Super Bowl, Bet Online gives you access to the best football promotions and contests available anywhere online. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. And remember to use our promo code Bleav to receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That is BLEAV. Bet Online, where the game starts. War Eagle, as always, blocking out the haters. Taylor Davis, Jason Campbell. Welcome in, everybody. It is week 7 of college
Mhm.
football, which
Wow.
is just insane. Every single season, I'm always mind blown at how quickly it goes by. It never ceases to amaze me. And this year is no exception. We are already on week 7. We are at the halfway point. Auburn coming off of their bye week and continuing to try and create and maintain some momentum heading to Death Valley down in Baton Rouge this weekend on the heels of the bye week, on the heels of a very electric day in Jordan Hare that unfortunately amounted in a 27-20 loss to Georgia, but definitely a lot to be proud of, as Hugh Freeze says. It doesn't take away from the sting, but there was positivity. It wasn't the same type of loss that we saw at Texas A&M. So we take that for what it's worth, right? So let's talk a little bit about the Georgia game because obviously the number one team in the nation, back to back national champion, comes to town. We've yet to put together a really compelling win. I mean, the couple that were lopsided were against teams that we should have. And the Cal one left much to be desired. So we head into a very exciting Deep South's oldest rivalry edition. And we did what I expected us to do in terms of keeping it close. And I think that at the end of the day, the offensive woes are going to continue to show up in games like that, and the defensive progression will continue to show up in games like that. And that's what we saw. Without an established passing game, you're always going to be in those really tight contended situations. The defense kept us in it. The run game did what they could. But let's talk a little bit about where you think this team is, Jay, and what you saw against Georgia that kind of adds into your holistic philosophy of where this team sits halfway through the season.
Well, I'll take my hat off now. It's money. It's great. It's great
I love
outside. The
that
weather's
cut, Jay.
awesome. It's a beautiful fall. I need a haircut so bad. Yeah, I'm just over here just, treading water right now until I can get
it's,
one. But,
it's that time.
I would say this though. Auburn showed up for the Georgia game in unique fashion. And what I mean by
Okay.
that is everybody said that the Georgia defense was going to dominate, up front, how we struggled against A&M's front seven because we know how great they are. And because Kirby has a history of having a really good front seven, everyone thought we would probably struggle running the ball and it was going to come down to us throwing the ball. But
Right.
ironically, our offensive line, they came up and they showed out in
Mm-hmm.
run blocking. Like, the rushing yards that we was able to put up against Georgia. And you saw Kentucky wasn't able to do that same thing. And people
Mm-hmm.
thought because we could do it, Kentucky could do it. And that just wasn't the case this past
Yeah.
Saturday. And it just goes to show you like, hey, we have the right mindset up front that we can compete when we have to. And, the guys learned a lot from the A&M game. It's what you want to see. You develop from
Mm-hmm.
from week to week as this thing continues. And they show from an offensive line standpoint that hey, we can compete with the best of them, when we're all playing together and we're not having those crazy
Right.
penalties, those holding calls, those, missed opportunities that we had in the A&M game that didn't cost us in this game offensively. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
the guys came out and established something up front, and they should be moving forward, Taylor, with a lot of confidence. Like, I'm not sure you're going to face, Bama has a really good front seven, but I'm not sure up until we get to the Iron Bowl game that you're going to face better front sevens than you faced against A&M and against Georgia. Those two
Fair.
teams are elite at their front seven.
Mm-hmm.
So our offensive line should feel good about that. My concern for us still offensively is we haven't had 100 yards passing versus our last big Power 5 opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let that sink in. Like,
Yep.
in a day's time where passing is like the go-to thing back when we was playing, everybody want to try to run the ball and then, you play action pass
Mm-hmm.
and everything. If you threw the ball 40 times, people was kicking the door in. Like, what's going on? You know,
Yeah.
like now it's expected almost for
Right.
you to put up high passing numbers because that's the way the
Mm-hmm.
game is going. And for us not to be able to, create over 100 yards passing, what are the factors in that? Yeah, quarterback missing throws or not being timed up accurately, throwing the ball, receivers dropping passes, offensive line missing certain blocks in key moments. So it's a lot of it that goes into it. It's not like you just pinpoint one person or one
Sure.
position in passing game as a whole. So I feel like for us going into this game this week, that's going to have to evolve because we're playing an offense that may be able to score points, and we know they can score points. But so we'll get into that as we go.
You're absolutely right. Against Georgia, the ground game, 219 rushing yards was the most Georgia has given up since 2016. And like you said, Kentucky, with Ray Davis, who has been one of the most electric backs in the country so far, was unable to curate pretty much anything on the ground. So I definitely felt good about that, specifically the offensive line. Brian Battie, Jarquez doing what they've got to do, and Peyton getting in on that too. He was the highest rusher on the day. Didn't have that on my bingo card, but it was true. 82 passing yards for Peyton, 92 rushing yards. But the passing game is the Achilles heel of this team. I mean, like there is just nothing, and it's while you can understand, like we say all the time, Peyton Thorne wasn't here in spring. He hasn't gotten the amount of reps that they needed. Hugh Freeze continuously points out the lack of size of this wide receiver group. And when you think back over Hugh Freeze's coaching resume, he's always had those guys, AJ and DK Metcalf and all of those guys that he's had big, like just forces on the perimeter. Those guys that you're like, F it, he's down there somewhere,
Right.
We don't have those other than Rivaldo Fairweather, which is a different guy. It's interesting because while I understand it not being clicking on all cylinders, I'm confused why we haven't seen a bit more progress because we have two guys in him and Philip Montgomery that is their bread and butter. That and they have gotten into situations that they could turn around very quickly. I actually have some numbers on this. Let me find it. In 2012, when Hugh Freeze took on the job at Ole Miss, that team had ranked 111th nationally in yards per passing attempt the year before. They jumped to 25 that
Mhm.
next year. Very quick turnaround. Tulsa went from number 88 in passing yards per attempt to 15 in Philip Montgomery's first season. These are two guys that have taken on poorly equipped passing games and flip the script pretty quickly. I'm not sitting here telling you they're top 5 in the nation, but that's a big jump in 1 year. So is it just a need of personnel? I mean, I understand I'm not pointing fingers at any one guy. I'm not saying it's just the quarterback, just the line, but it does feel like what Hugh Freeze has said, that this roster has improved, but it's not necessarily built for what we're trying to do just yet.
You got to have playmakers, man. Like, we have some guys on the team, and I think a lot of it right now, Taylor, is just pressure. I think this team is pressing from a passing game perspective because we can run the ball at will. We feel like it, but then we get in those situations where it's 3rd and 6 or more, we're just struggling,
Mm-hmm.
and we end up losing the game against Georgia because we couldn't convert on 3rd or 4th down. And everything. And so you think about it overall, is that's why I said during the UMass game, during the Sanford game, what should we be doing? Throwing the heck out of the football. And I said that because you want to build chemistry against teams that you can, like, okay, not trying to down those teams, but those are confidence building games. They
Right.
get confidence in your passing game. Like, I wanted to see us throw for 250 or 300 more in those games, because that way it gets the receivers feeling confident, feeling good. If they feel like, oh, I only got 1 catch, or I ain't had no catches in 2 to 3 games, they don't
Yeah.
feel like they're part of the offense. So then when you got to count them in the game on it's 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 7, now you want to go make this play, you know, it's just not there because it's just they don't have no confidence.
Yeah.
And so right now I just feel like offensively, hopefully this whole bye week has been a lot of that, like self-scouting, and guys realize, like, okay, I need to do this better. Coaching
Right.
staff saying, okay, this is how we can work certain guys in, because there's guys we haven't even heard of that got here. Where's Jair Shorter? The kid from North Texas that was tearing it up.
Right.
Hollywood Hooks, he's been on the field, but I don't know if he was targeted maybe 1 or twice last game.
Yeah.
So there's not like a lot of passing attempts going on as well. And that just shows me that Coach Freeze and Coach Montgomery is not very confident right now in our passing game, for whatever reason.
For a multitude of reasons, it sounds, and honestly, they don't have much reason to be. In the last 2 games against Texas A&M and Georgia, we were outgained in passing yards 506 to
Mm,
144. That's
man.
an insane discrepancy, which also goes to show our passing defense can step it up a little bit. I don't think we have that one guy on the defensive front. We also lost another one this week, so Keldrick Falk is going to be starting at defensive end. But it doesn't seem like we have that one guy that's going to win those one-on-ones and really get into the backfield and force something, irrational out of the opposing passing game. So that's a little bit of it too. And I mean, it goes without saying, you have to shut down a team's main guy. Brock Bowers, dude, 4
Yeah.
catches and 121 yards in
Mm,
the fourth quarter.
mm,
In the fourth quarter. That's what won it.
mm.
That is what won it. Not just that one play, but that they saw Brock come alive and we did not shut it
Yeah.
down. He just had way too much comfortability and space out there. And this is one of the best guy in Yak in the country. So that was a little disappointing. But nonetheless, I thought the defense played lights out. I did appreciate, not only were we forcing turnovers, we were capitalizing on them
Oh, yeah.
offensively. And when coaches talk about complementary football, that's what they're talking about. If one side is going to do something that benefits the team, the other has to match it. You can't
Mm.
have one half of this thing going. Defense forced turnovers, offense took advantage and got points on the board. Little things like that should encourage this coaching staff that improvements are being made. But you're right. I think while the chemistry element has to continue to build, and I fully understand a lot of the reasons, we got to see more from this quarterback situation, from this quarterback position, whoever's out there, even from a decision making standpoint, and being kind of the leader on the team. Get rid of the ball before taking a sack. Like, make those good decisions. The read options are getting a little bit better. There were way more quarterback run plays designed for Peyton this week or 2 weeks ago, but I think there is a bit more of moxie and
Mhm.
assertiveness that we need to see from the quarterback position.
2 things I'd like to point on. You made some great points. Defensively, yes, we don't have a Derek Hall that we had a year ago. A guy
Mhm.
that you probably can rush for and say, hey, you can go and beat your guy and get to the quarterback.
Right.
Most of our pressures this year have come off adding secondary pressure.
Mhm.
And one of those key guys is out. And, that's Keontae Scott.
Keontae.
I do believe if we had Keontae Scott in this last game, we win this game. There's a
Mm.
lot of factors why. Keontae is a big punt returner as well. So he's elusive
Right.
with the ball at punt return, but he's also one of our best cover guys. Like at that star position, which is the nickel on defense, he's one of our best cover guys. So at that point in time with Brock Bowers, we was double teaming, but what we was doing is playing safety on top, but we was playing
Mhm.
our star guy 5 yards off of him. So what had
Mm.
happened is in Mike Bobo's system, Bowers would come off the ball. He has a two-way go. And a two-way go was based off however our slot DB was playing him. If he played him inside, he was going to break out. If he played outside, he was going to break in. But he wasn't going to get enough depth to get up to the safety unless he ran like a seam route or a skinny post or something from the tight end position. Other than that, it's almost man coverage underneath is what is kind of considered.
Right.
So the problem that happened is Donovan Kaufman is a really good football player for us, but Donovan is more of a run hitter. He's more of a run hitter. He's more of a blitzer. Like you've seen him
Mhm.
get in some games where he's caused some problems, blitzing off the nickel, off the slot. And when you put him in coverage against one of the best tight end in football in college, you
Yep.
know, he can kinda get lost a little bit because he's like, "Man, I'm covering this guy. I don't wanna get
Very
beat
true.
deep, but I'm kinda giving up that 10 to 12 yards range." And that's
Mhm.
kinda where we lost the game at was because, Brock now that one incredible catch he made behind his back, one hand, you just gotta give
You
credit
can't
where
do
credit
anything about
is.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. That was just great coverage. It's just a
Exactly.
better play by him. But late in that game on that drive to go win it, that's where I was like, this is where we miss Keontae Scott because
Yeah.
Keontae Scott would have been impressed on Bowers.
It's a
And the
very
one thing
good
that you're
point.
trying to do impress is okay, you got safety over top. So as a DB, I know I got help behind me. So I'm not worried about once you get past 10 to 12 yards, my safety is there. I know I got to get you, I'm guarding you all the way from 12 yards under. And from that
Mhm.
standpoint is if I'm going to press you off the ball and Keontae is so quick, I'm going to press you off the ball. So I'm going to disrupt the the rhythm between the quarterback and Brock Bowers. So
Yeah.
Beck is not going to have time to sit there and allow Bowers to get 10 yards down the field to break out or break in because Keontae is jamming him off the line of scrimmage, which takes about a second and a half to 2 seconds, which disrupts. So now he got to move on to the rest of his receivers. And
Mm.
that's how you win that game. And the fact that he was playing 5 yards off in the slot, it allowed him to get free, like you said, get off the ball freely without being attacked. And he was able to get into his routes and it kept the timing on for him and the quarterback.
Yeah.
You need someone up there to disrupt that time and press. I agree with this, the scheme that they ran. I just
Mhm.
prefer that we had someone pressing on Brock Bowers to
Yeah.
jam him to cause that time to go off in the clock of Beck's head. So,
Yeah.
and you talk about quarterback. Yes, we had some really good quarterback design runs in that game.
Mhm.
That really hurts the Georgia defense. But we talked about that. Ted. We talked about that the week we got ready to play it. We said, what's the one thing that hurts the Kirby Smart defense or even the Saban defense is when the quarterback is
Mobile
involved in the
quarterback.
run game. I
Yep.
said so. That's exactly what they did. Had a great plan for that. But then again, what hurts us again, which always does, is we don't have a consistent passing game.
Yeah.
And Peyton's supposed to be an accurate guy. That's what he was built off of, coming from Michigan State. That's supposed to be his thing. So what tells me about him is there can be two things. Either he's still not comfortable with the system and he's not sure to go with the ball, and he just doesn't trust that everyone's going to be where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. So I tend to hold on to it a little bit longer than I should. And
Yeah.
now instead of the guy being open, he's covered, because I held on to it. So that those two things can be a huge factor that's going through his. Now, Robbie comes in the game. He had some exceptional runs, but at the end of the day, do the defense respect his passing ability? They don't because they haven't seen him throw a lot, and then from that
Did he
standpoint,
have a pass attempt?
I don't think he had one. I don't think he had a pass attempt. And then
I
the
mean,
A and
be a
M
little
game,
more predictable.
yeah, then the A&M game, he had a couple passing attempts,
Yeah.
and you know, I thought two of them the receivers should have called, and then one just kind of got away from him. But at the end of the day, there's not a lot of reps there, passing perspective to see like,
True.
okay, is he developed as a passer? We don't know,
Right.
because
Right.
it's not a lot of volume there. So those are the things that's going on right now. I feel like from a quarterback perspective, I do think the key for this team, though, from that is our offensive line. You know, they pride themselves on not giving up sacks. And sometimes if your quarterback hold on to the ball too long and get a sack, you're kind of ticked off. And then sometimes a
Yeah.
quarterback, you're like, I need you to block a little long because I got a guy running
Mhm.
open. So I think it's just a whole trust thing right now that this team has got to develop in the passing game. In the run game, it's not a lot of trust. You got really good running backs. A lineman see a guy in front of him. He said, "Hey, this is my guy. I'm going to block him." There's no guessing. I don't have to worry about zone blitzes. I'm just blocking
Yeah.
the guy that's in my zone. So things go faster. We just got to get to that point in the passing game.
Right. As we transition and look ahead a little bit to LSU, I feel like that you at least got to see it click a little bit more. I don't anticipate we're going to be this prolific passing air attack, but I do think against this LSU offense, you have to be able to match what they're going to do to put points on the board. And if they are capable of shutting down our run game, we are very one dimensional right now.
Mhm.
So if we don't establish some sort of consistency in the passing game, we're going to have a long night in Baton Rouge because they have figured out a way to accrue a lot of points. They are currently 4-2. Their two losses coming to Florida State to open up season, and then Ole Miss in a crazy shootout in Oxford a couple weeks ago. They're coming off another pretty wild game against Missouri, and that was a unexpected at the beginning of season, very good matchup. Missouri has a lot of honestly, stud receivers. Luther Burden is one of the best in the country. Brady Cook has certainly established himself as a very effective quarterback, and their defense has been steadily improving as well. So that matchup actually ended up being a lot more compelling than we thought coming into the season. They were behind at some point, and they figured it out. Brian Kelly every week feels like they have learned a little bit more, and then you see it. And obviously it didn't amount in a win in Oxford, but I do think you see some improvements each week. And for coaches new in their tenure, that's what you're hoping for. And I certainly think Hugh Freeze wants to continue to see that out of Auburn. We will still be without Keontae Scott, like you've mentioned. Austin Keys, Damari Alston, and Javarius Johnson is also out. So we
Mhm.
will be down some key guys in this one. And like we all know, Death Valley at night is a very, very tough, one of the toughest in the
Uh,
country to play in for sure. But this LSU defense is not the LSU defense we're used to. They are definitely scratching their head a little bit because that has been DBU in years past. Like
right.
this is always a team that comes out with some hair on fire defense, and they've had to rely on Jaden Daniels and the passing attack so far this season. Their run game has come along in the last couple. I Bleav their running back has back-to-back 100-yard games, but to start the season, is pretty much just pass attack. I mean, Jaden Daniels has become one of the most reliable. And look, he ain't afraid to take off and run too, even though he's a little scrawnier than you would like. But it's definitely an offense that has found their identity and continuing to evolve. I think our defense will certainly make it challenging on them, but their defense has some struggles too. It's kind of the opposite. They're strong on offense and have some holes in defense. We're strong on defense, have some holes in offense. Which one puts it all together? So, give me your scouting report. What you've learned in your prep about LSU and where they sit right now.
Yeah, I'm just sitting up here looking at their numbers. Like they have two
Mm-hmm.
receivers that's averaging, over 100 yards per game. You
Uh-huh.
got Malik Neighbors who's averaging
God, that kid.
128.5. And then you got Brian Thomas Jr. who's averaging
Yeah.
100.5 per game. So they have two guys that are studs. Jaden Daniels averaging 328 point two yards per game.
Average.
So we know that they're going to put the ball in the air,
Yeah.
and we know that they're going to utilize him in the run game. He's a big part of what they do from a run game perspective. And you
Yeah.
mentioned their defense. You think LSU, you've always thought great defense,
Yep.
and great linebacker play, and always had two dominant defensive tackles, and always had DBU, like you said, all their DBs
Mm-hmm.
could play at the next level. So it's
Yep.
very shocking when you look at this team and you're like, dang, like people putting up points on them, like at bay. It's just so
Yeah.
easy for them to go down the field. And all their games seem like since the second half of their first game against Florida State, the defense played pretty good in the first half of that game. It seemed like since the second half, it just completely just fell apart, and it's been falling
Yeah.
apart ever since. And
It's weird.
yeah, it's very weird. So when you think about this game and everything, Logan Diggs, their running back, he's averaging 97 yards,
Mhm.
97.6 yards a game. And then who's next? Jaden Daniels, the quarterback, who's averaging 70.3. So it's just the quarterback's the second leading rusher on the football
That
team,
says
you know,
something. Yeah.
and he is, like you said, he's not a big kid, he's not a strong kid. Every time he gets hit, you wonder if he's
I'm,
getting
like,
up.
nervous.
Because he gets up so slow, and I was like, "Dude, like,
He
I need
doesn't
you
have
to,
a lot
like,
of meat
either."
on his bones,
Yeah, so, he
but
doesn't
he's
carry a
tough.
lot of weight there. He's just very quick, he's agile in the pocket, he's
Mhm.
elusive, so from our defensive front, they have to understand this game, like, "Hey, when you get your hands on him, hold on to the whistle's blown. You know,
Yes.
don't get to him and think you got him. Like, no, you have to hold on to him till the whistle's blown. And
Totally.
then from another perspective, we lose Mosaic Kalite. Yeah, Mosaic, he's out. He's that hurts me because he's a
Bicep
really good
injury.
kid and plays hard. And you talking about when our edge rushers is out, and now a lot of things fall on our young kid, Keldrick
A
Fault, who's our
freshman,
5 star. Yeah,
right.
who's our 5 star freshman we signed in January. I mean December.
Yeah,
So, he's a really good kid, level headed. Like he has the right size for the position, and it's gonna be good experience for him.
for sure.
Yeah, like I told him, I was like, hey man, don't go out there and feel like you have to make every play or you have to reinvent the wheel. Like, just
Mhm.
go out there and play your game and when you get to the sideline, make sure you're communicating from a standpoint of like, hey, let some of the older guys help you from a knowledge standpoint while your physical ability is able to just do what they do.
Right.
So in that position. But Taylor, for us to win this game, we got to be efficient on third down offensively. Let's just be honest. You got to play ball
Yeah.
control against a team like this. What we do very well, we run the ball. This kind of plays into our hands when it comes against LSU because if you can run the ball and sustain drives and keep Jaden Daniels and that offense on the sideline, this is not a game for us to get pass happy. This wouldn't be the one I say, okay, let's get pass happy. No, this is the
Yeah.
game you want to slow it down and make them have to when they get on the field, we got to score though when we have these long drives. And to the point where
Mhm.
LSU do get on the field, they feel pressure to have to score every time
Right.
because now we are controlling the clock. So they feel like their possessions are limited. So they don't have as many possessions as they get. They want us to throw the ball like Ole Miss because Ole Miss, you get off the field, they get another shot to go and try to win the game. They
True.
actually could have won that game. They dropped the ball in the
Oh,
end zone
yeah.
the last play. So because they're up. So they had numerous opportunities. We have to limit their opportunities by running the football. But our quarterbacks, when we do are called upon to pass the ball and receivers, we got to be efficient. We got to be efficient on third downs. And it's going to be loud. They think it was loud in A&M. This doesn't compare to a night game in LSU and Death
It's
Valley. You
something
have
different.
got to be able to communicate. You can't have these 1st and 15s. You can't have these holding calls in critical moments. You got to be sure that you're staying on top of what you're doing and everyone is watching the football. Defensively, up front, hey, this may not be a game you blitz a lot because that leaves our
Yeah.
guys one on one a lot outside. Can we win some of those battles? Yes, I believe in our corners. I believe we can win some of those battles. But at the same time, when you blitz as much, you vacate open space in the middle of the field. This is where
Which
these
they
guys have
will
to.
take advantage of
Right, they take
every
advantage of
time.
because they just dial up stuff to come out the quarterback hands quickly. So this is
Exactly.
a game that we were going to have to play coverage, and we're gonna have to have that bend but don't break mentality when it comes to
Mhm.
defense. And that's kind of what we did against Georgia. We had to bend but don't
Yeah.
break. Like, we forced them when they got the red zone kick some field goals. So I like us doing that in this game. If we can do those two things in this game, then we can go down there and steal a victory in Baton Rouge and be successful.
That will be crazy. And keep in mind, this is the last one of these matchups, at least for the next year.
Yeah,
We
that's
do not
big.
have this on our schedule next year. And this one has always had some crazy stuff to it. So, for the last year of divisions in the SEC, I fully anticipate this matchup is going to be worked back into the schedule when we figure things out down the road. But
Mhm.
for 2024, we will not play LSU. So, I'm hopeful that it'll be an exciting one, like so many have been. I also think creating some turnovers goes without saying, but I think it's going to be imperative to kind of get their offense off track. Jalen Simpson, just what a guy, man! He flew around at Georgia, had that big interception through the guy's arms. I mean, there's definitely some playmakers out there that can get Jaden Daniels and their receivers off a little bit. And I think if we do that, it provides our offense a little bit of breathing room to kind of create their own chemistry as well. Let me ask you a question because this has confused me for so long. And it showed up in our game against Georgia. And I was like, someone needs to make this make sense for me. 3rd and short, 4th and short situations. Why go shotgun? Why? Why not be under center every time? You are adding distance and increasing the possibility of something going wrong. Obviously it showed up in our game. There was a high snap when Robbie was in shotgun. He could have been under center. Jarquez had to run to a completely different hole because of the way it shut down with the high snap. It's unnecessary and it causes problems more often than it helps.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of times I've asked this question to a couple of offensive coordinators before in the past. I was just like, when it's 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, I said, isn't that helping the defense when the quarterback is 4.5 and the running back's 5 yards deep? I
It
said,
seems like
because
common sense.
I said by the time he gets the ball, he got to get to the line of scrimmage. He got 5 yards to gain before he even gets to the
Correct.
line of scrimmage. I said, I know you want to, penetrate and get guys a chance to see the hole. I said, but for me though, I'm just like, that hole is only there for half a second. If you're under the center, it's a quick hitter, especially when everybody's in tight. So it's not going to be a
Yes.
lot of room. I've always asked that question. I like it if you want to go shotgun and you're going to spread everybody out
Mhm.
because now you can get more of a 6-man box or a 5-man box, whatever you're looking for. And now you run the ball. Now I like that aspect of it because there's a threat of, okay, we may throw the ball to a bubble screen or something or a quick slant. So guys are kind of outside that box a little bit. Now you can kind of hit it in there. Now when you have everybody inside and you're in 3 and a 4 tight end set, now you bring everybody to the party. Now, it gets very cloudy and muddy in there. And the thing is, why you think you see the Eagles on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, they get behind Jalen and they do this mush thing where they push everybody forward and they get
Yeah.
it every single time.
I mean,
They haven't been stopped yet. So, and now
right.
other teams are trying that. So I'm just like, in that situation, especially against a defensive front that you feel like can be a little bit they're aggressive. Like,
Mhm.
I like to get on the center and just go quarterback sneak and get my guys behind them and push them forward. Like I feel like you
Especially
have
a
a
guy
better
like
chance.
Robbie.
Yeah, and he's strong. Robbie's a
Right.
strong kid, so I
That's
feel
what I'm
like
saying.
Jalen is a strong kid. That's a lot of why it works. And now, like their lower body these guys have
Built
strong
for it.
legs,
Yep.
so I do agree. Like we could have just got Robbie under the center and just did some form of a quarterback sneak, and you get the running backs behind him where they're giving an extra push along with his leg screen. I think you pick up that first down. I
Agreed.
agree with you. It's just too much that can happen when I'm in shotgun and I'm away from the ball like that because, like you said, it didn't happen not one time, it happened twice in
Mhm.
that game, and both of them was high snaps, and I agree with him going for it in that situation. "Hey, we come to win the ball
Me
game."
too.
We
It's the
come
number 1
to
team in
yeah,
the nation. You have
yeah,
to do things like that.
yeah, and we get the ball at the start of the second half, so guess what? We're
Shotgun.
coming to win the game. So I
Yeah.
agree with him in that situation. The problem is you can't dictate the center snapping that ball the way it went.
Nope.
Anything to the left that's off tilt, anything high that's off tilt, anything that's low off tilt, it messes up the whole thing because that's supposed to be a quick hitter where he was supposed to catch the ball and quickly hand it to our running back. He's supposed to get downhill ASAP.
Yep.
When that ball went high, now he's trying to make sure he catch it, and then the running back he stutters to have to wait to the ball to get it, and now he goes, it's too late. Like
Yeah.
the hole that was there is gone.
Yep.
Like had it been a clean snap, yes, it would have been a first down. The hole was there, but it
Mhm.
closed like that once that ball and everything's time was completely thrown off. That's why I don't like being in center. I mean, being in
Agreed.
shotgun on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 when you're gonna go in that situation because the snap can just be off.
Exactly.
You saw it in the USC Arizona game. I'm not sure if you stayed up to watch that game Saturday,
I caught
but
highlights.
the kick though, the kick, it was a high snap. That's why I tell people
Mhm.
play to the end. It was a
Yeah.
high snap, and the guy tried to catch it and put it down through the kickoff block
Yep.
overtime.
Yep.
So I agree with you in that situation. Like, let's get under the center. You see it so many times in the pros where they get behind a quarterback and they just, especially you got a strong quarterback, they just pushing forward.
Yeah. You're just making it harder on yourself. I really don't
Yeah.
understand, and that one seemed like a really pivotal missed opportunity. It really
Yeah.
kind of because we had created a lot of momentum out of halftime with the turnover and the score, and I feel like that one would have had some ripple effects had we converted. I mean, we definitely at least would have gone away with 3, but, anyway, we will close the book on that one. Look ahead to LSU, the last Tiger Bowl for the foreseeable future until this
Crazy.
schedule gets worked out. I know I would be the first one to start a petition that that one deserves to stay on our schedule. But good stuff. Okay, let me get your take on a few results across college football lately. Just a brief update on what happened this past week, and then we will wrap things up. A couple big SEC matchups this past weekend that were anticipated to tell us a good bit about where things could potentially be heading.
Mm,
For the West, it was Alabama, Texas A&M, and for the East, it was Kentucky, Georgia. One of them really lived up to the hype, and the other one did not, unfortunately. So Georgia with a very comfortable win over Kentucky back in Athens. They just have had so many freaking home games to start the season, but Kentucky really was so ineffective against them.
mhm.
It was kind of surprising. And then Alabama A&M, Saban goes into College Station, comes away with the win 26-20, and a very deflating loss for Texas A&M, who
Yeah,
definitely thought it was theirs for the taking, because for all intents and purposes it was.
yeah.
Give me your take on kind of where the SEC stands right now.
Oh, man, the hat gotta go back on. Gosh, dog it. The hat's going back on. Do you not know that if Auburn can win the rest of their games in the
Oh,
SEC,
Jay.
they can go to the SEC championship? You have to put it out there. You have to put it out there.
You do.
I know it's a long shot, but you have to put it out there, and Imma tell you why I put it out
Okay.
there. Alabama beat A&M, A&M beat us. So, the good thing that we have for our schedule is if we could beat LSU and Baton Rouge, we get Ole Miss, Mississippi State at home. Our 2 road SEC games after that is Arkansas and Vanderbilt, and then we get Bama at home for the last game.
Mm-hmm.
So and you know what happens when Bama plays in Jordan-Hare, and things are on the line.
Chaos. You're right.
Chaos. So, our focus should be if we could get these next 2 games, if you can
Mm-hmm.
find a way to win these next 2
Yeah,
games and
that's the key.
and you catch fire, you catch fire. Do you not know that Auburn can have a chance to play Bama for the SEC West? As crazy as it sounds, but the last 2 games, A&M, we didn't show up the first half, didn't show up the game pretty much at all offensively. Defensively, we did. Georgia game, we showed up as a team.
Mhm.
So you learn a lot about your football team in the 4th and 5th games of the season. Don't give me the first 2, don't give me the first 3. The 4th and 5th game of the season, it's the same as in NFL. After your first quarter of football, which we consider the first 4 games, then
Yeah.
you know where you're at when you get ready to start that second quarter. It's the same thing in college football. Everyone was talking about how Georgia, it hadn't been looking like they're getting better, they're getting better. So for us, we're getting better. We was right there. If it
Mhm.
wasn't for us giving up a few passing plays in the fourth quarter of that game, we're sitting right now 4-1 with
Yeah,
a different
with a win over
attitude.
Georgia.
Yeah, with a win over Georgia. So now your confidence is totally out the door, and everybody can be like, "Oh, yes, every game left on our schedule now is winnable." Because we lost that game at the end, now everybody has downplayed the fact that they don't think our games are winnable anymore.
I don't take as much from the Georgia game, because if that's the team we are, I actually think that we have a lot to feel good about.
Mhm.
I actually took more from Texas A&M and even the Cal win. I didn't feel great about that win, and I
Right.
understand it was game 2 of the season. I understand that for sure. Texas A&M was also on the road, and we're gonna have to face LSU.
Now see, that's my next point. My next point is you do all of that against Georgia.
Mhm.
Now you go on the road against LSU. If we go on the road and we look like A&M game against LSU, now now that's a huge problem. You
Exactly.
know, we gotta go to LSU and look like the team that showed up against Georgia,
But is
you know?
that team just because they have a Jordan Hare behind them? That's what we're gonna find out.
Well, that's what we're gonna find out. This is why we play the game is this Saturday to figure out are we still trending in that right direction of what we saw against Georgia, but can we travel with that same intensity?
Exactly.
That's what we will talk about next week is, did we travel with that same intensity or we left it in Auburn? We'll talk about that.
Exactly. Does it
Now
live in Jordan Hare, and that's
right,
it?
does right, exactly. Are we a home team? Are we kinda like the Falcons? We show up at home and then we
Oh
just on
gosh.
the road, we don't,
Or
like,
is that our mentality?
or is that a mentality, So that's the thing, and I say that because living in Atlanta. but,
Right.
you know, everyone know I'm a Washington
It
and
is
the
accurate.
Raiders. Nah, yeah, yeah, it
It
is
is
accurate. It's
accurate.
accurate, though. But you
Um,
talked about Georgia and
uh-huh.
Kentucky. Kentucky, I think, read too much of the clippings. Like, they've been at home, they've been doing good, they beat Florida, and they thought that, "Oh, we just beat the doors off Florida for 3 straight years, and we
Right.
arrived." And they run into to Athens. They get to Athens and they run against the Georgia Bulldogs. And I'm just watching the game. I'm just like, if you the team that's on the road, you can't do dumb stuff. What I mean by
Right.
that is you can't get dumb defensive penalties or holding penalties on offense. And that's exactly what they did on the first drive. They did it again on the second drive. Georgia's about to punt them the ball. And what do? They hit a man late. They yank a man down, just do dumb stuff. And you realize, like, okay, you haven't arrived yet because until you can learn to be disciplined, which is why Georgia has been winning the last couple of years and Bama was
Right.
winning the years before that is one. Their number one thing is discipline. And you gotta have that if you wanna win games in the SEC. So, no,
You're right.
Kentucky was not there yet. They're still gonna be who they are until they can show that they can take that next step. And
Yeah.
an A&M Bama game, Milrose has showed you that he can throw the ball,
He can.
you
He's
know?
gotten better.
But people was downing him so much the first 2 games, and I'm trying to tell folks, people just all over him. I'm talking about Bama fan, Bama fan, they talk to me too, and I'm just trying to tell them like,
100%.
yeah, they try to tell me I'm speaking at speaking engagement, they're just downing the kid. I said, "Hold on, time out." I said, "Let me tell y'all something about quarterbacking. You can't plug and play. A kid has to have time to develop." I
Right.
said, "He played the first game. Y'all was talking about, oh man, he looks good." It was against Middle Tennessee State. The next game they play against Texas, and all of a sudden you find out that Texas is a pretty good football team.
Right.
And you find out in that Texas game, you put everything on him. You didn't think about the fact that the offensive line was getting their butt whipped up front. You didn't think about how defensive they was giving up touchdown passes left and right. But you put everything on that kid to the point that every day of the next week on the Fine Bum show and everything, everybody said, you got to get him out of here. You got to get him out of here. So what happens?
It's
Okay.
crazy.
Saban plays 2 other quarterbacks against USF.
Saban said
They go
bet.
down there and they couldn't even move the ball against USF.
Yeah.
So he like, okay, I've been won 7 national championships now, so y'all think I can't coach. So now let's
Exactly.
so now I said, I'm gonna let y'all see what I had behind him. And there will be no more discussion. So what happened? He put him out there. Luckily, they came out of that game with a victory. Now Milroe get back in there, and he's showing improvement every week. Is what you want to see. I was
Exactly.
like, so give kids time to develop and kids time to do this. But some people have become spoiled, man, where they don't
Oh, they
understand and
are.
unappreciated. Yeah, they've been spoiled. I'm just like, you know, and for us at Auburn, hey, we have work to do.
I know. I know. We'll get there. We will get
Yeah, we'll
there.
get there. We will get there. We need patience.
Um, they will have to bring a certain level of intensity, like you said, a certain level of discipline. Speaking of discipline, Miami,
Oh my goodness.
I
Yes,
don't
go
know that
ahead and
I've
talk
ever
about that one.
seen a worse coaching flub ever.
It makes me wonder, were they stat pointing? I mean, stat like trying to build a stat in the run it because I like what other reason
What
would
was
you
the
not take a knee?
point?
I said, just take a knee and the game is over. What was the point of the only thing that could help Georgia Tech was you hand the ball off and you
And
fumble.
fumble, and you did. I'm
And
so confused. They were undefeated. Like, what? Why did you chance that? And, so many times early in season, you've got these matchups and you see starters still playing, and you're like, why are you still playing this guy? He could get hurt.
mhm,
And it's like,
right,
well, game reps are important. We're on week 6. You don't
right,
need another rep running the damn ball.
right,
Take an I didn't know if I had seen it correctly. I was like, am I missing something here? And this is not a new coach. This
right.
coach has been paid out the wazoo to turn this program around, a program with history. How do you mess up
It's
like that?
That's just bad in a lot of ways because this team gonna have to be closely watched now because tell you, you've been covering college football now for a few years and you know
Mhm.
this.
Mhm.
One game can either propel you upward or it can cause locker room problems and you can go down.
Ooh.
this is that game
It
when
feels like it.
because as a player, you're supposed to believe in your coaching staff that they're going to put you in a position to be successful, or they're going to at least, try to make the right decisions. And in
Right.
this situation, everybody in the country know the game is done. You just take a
Yeah.
knee, people are heading out the stadium, everything, and all of a sudden, and it saw it in their defense because that happens, and all of a sudden their defense, and they showed a clip. This kid on the sideline, and he was just crying, and
And
like,
saying, "What the F are we
right.
doing?"
And you
That's
saw that.
everyone's thought.
Right. So if he's saying that, and then defensively, you going out there shell shocked. And then all of a sudden you give up 2 plays where you let a guy get behind you, which should never happen in that situation. You should always play back and keep everything in front of you. You know the only thing that can beat you is a touchdown. And then you give up a touchdown, and then all of a sudden you get to the locker room and you're the coach and you got to address the team. And you're addressing the team, and you got kids kind of looking probably sideways, pissed off at you.
Oh,
You know what
for
I'm saying?
sure.
Like, what's going
Doubting
on?
you.
Like, doubting you. Like, dude, you just cost us from being undefeated and being in the ACC where we're still like in the top to now
Yeah.
Florida State gained the game on us, and everything. Duke's gained the game on us because we do something stupid. Let's just call it what it is. That was just
Beyond.
not a good choice. And so this is a critical week. I'm not sure who they play this week, but it'll be
Me
a good
neither.
game to kind of closely watch just to see like the team morale, because that's the type of thing that can kind of derail your team a little bit dealing with something like that.
1000% and create some separation. The stage is definitely set for an exciting day down in Death Valley. Looking forward to Jason's coverage as always, and hope everyone enjoys. That will be 6 o'clock Central Time kickoff on ESPN. Make sure you tune in. That's going to do it for us here and Bleav in Everything Auburn. Thank you so much as always for listening and following along. Make sure you subscribe if you have not already, wherever you get your podcasts, so you'll get a notification whenever we release an episode. Make sure you also subscribe on YouTube, as we are on Bleav's YouTube channel every week. Share with your friends, post us on social, and come on back next week to recap the Tiger Bowl. Have a good week, everybody. War Eagle.
War Eagle. Peace.